Hi, good morning, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well. I still see that Jenny is wearing a jacket. So that tells you that in some parts of the world, the weather is not very kind. And my name is Zikhona Tywabi-Ngeva, and I'll be taking you guys through today's session as a moderator. And I am also the chairperson of the Network for Women in Marine Science, which is WiMS. And we're going to learn briefly about WiMS is just in a few minutes. But I just wanted to welcome you guys. And by now, we all know the rules of engagement, especially in a platform like this, which is an online platform. So we need to keep our mics off. And if you need to say anything or if you need to ask any questions, then you can be able to raise your hand. I'm going to be monitoring the chat session as well. And I also just need help from Buhle to help me, as well as Jenny, to monitor some of the hands that I might overlook. And we have our wonderful speakers. You guys, I cannot wait for you guys to meet our speakers. Oh, they are beautiful. They are so wonderful. But without wasting any further time, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome you to today's webinar, which is on the equality in the Western Indian Ocean's blue economy. And it is under, what happened to the screen? It is under the theme for women and girls, and it is influenced by this year's theme that we have sampled from the United Nations, which is for all women and girls' rights and equality. If we all remember, on the 8th of March, we have commemorated the International Women's Day, but we have decided to celebrate ours today. And we're not going to be wasting a lot of your time. We just need only 90 minutes of your time for this webinar. And today, what we are going to learn from the webinar is we are going to learn about how some women from the Western Indian Ocean region, they are engaged in bridging the gap from the policy to implementation in the marine conversation, as well as focusing especially on the Western Indian Ocean region. If I were to just give you a little bit of a background of where the Western Indian Ocean region is, so it starts all the way from Kenya and all the way down to Mozambique. So that is the Western Indian region. And sometimes we refer to that region as the WIO region. So please do not get confused. What we basically mean by WIO, which is WIO, we refer to it as the Western Indian Ocean region. So what we're going to learn today is we are going to learn from our speakers their experiences. I mean, being women in the marine industry and also residing in the WIO region. What are some of their challenges that they are encountering? How can they empower us? And in our discussions, we are also going to cover some of the opportunities, especially when it comes to policy reform and how do we manage the local, national, and regional policy levels. So we're going to learn all of that from our speakers. And the outcome of today's webinar, it is going to contribute to the final seminar that we're going to have at the upcoming WiMS Science Symposium, which is scheduled to take place in, is it September or October, sometime this year? So thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to a fruitful and engaging session. And I'm not going to waste a lot of your time, so I'm just going to briefly introduce you guys to WiMS as well as WiMS. And I know a lot of people, they are not familiar with what WiMS is, but WiMS is basically a network, and it comes from the WiMS, and WiMS stands for the Western Indian Ocean Marine Science Association. So WiMS is basically network for women in marine science. Why is my screen not moving? Can you guys see my screen, Jenny?
Yes, we can see it, but it's the first page.
Is it not moving?
No, I think not.
Okay, can you please give me a few seconds? Let me stop sharing and start sharing again.
Yes.
I'm not sure what actually happened there. So I'm just going to briefly take you through what WiMS is all about. And I do promise that I'm not going to bore you. I'm literally going to spend 2 minutes in introducing you guys to what WiMS is all about.
Yes.
Okay, so WiMS is basically a network. And as I did mention, it is a network that actually comes from the WiMS. And it was formulated in March 2017. And it was formulated during the WiMS Symposium. So it was launched in order to address some of the gender equality issues that are facing a lot of women marine scientists in the Western Indian Ocean region. And in 2018, I think it was in Nairobi, December, they approved the terms of reference for the WiMS, as well as elect the first steering committee of the WiMS. So that was in December 2018. So you might be asking yourself, what is WiMS all about? What are their focus areas? So WiMS is focusing on capacity building. It is focusing on mentorship. It is focusing on leadership. And you would note that we also have a call. If you were to follow our social media platforms, you're going to see that we do have a call we are looking for women mentors that are going to mentor our mentees. And please go check that out. And if you are able to give some mentorship to some upcoming marine scientists, please do give your time, and we promise it is going to be worth it. And so these are the critical focus areas of the WiMS. And this is the leadership team. And the leadership team is made up of a chairperson, a vice chairperson. We've got the secretary. We also have got the country chapters. So as you can see, there's about 10 ladies. We are all from the WIO region, with myself from South Africa, and Loubna from Comoros, and Lydia from Kenya, and we also have some ladies from Mozambique. And also, if you do go to our social media pages, we have also shared the profiles of the leadership team of the WiMS, that is the steering committee. So please do check that out. So as I did mention, our mission is very clear. It is to provide women in the marine sciences with a platform to share their experiences as well as challenges. But at the same time, we want to be able to provide solutions as well, and also celebrate achievements. I think for me, it's important for us to celebrate our achievements. I mean, being in this field, we know how challenging it is. And we also need to, promote the visibility outside of the WIO region. So it is very important for us to be out there. We need to be seen, but at the same time, we need to be seen doing all the good things, so that we can be able to also inspire the young girls that actually want to take on a career in marine science. Okay, so there are some research areas that most of our members are focusing on. I've just included them there. And by the way, I'm a chemist, so I would fall under the last research area that you guys see on that slide. And these are just our objectives. We want to be able to encourage young women to pursue careers in the different fields of marine science. And we also want to promote networking amongst the women marine scientists. We also want to increase participation of women marine scientists I would say in policy and decision-making bodies. I think it's very important. We need that representation. And we also want to raise awareness as well as promote inclusion. And we also do, remember I said we do celebrate our women. So if you do have a beautiful story that you want to share with us as a marine scientist, you can reach out to us, and then we'll be able to share your story on our social media platforms. Because remember, we did see that we wanted to be women of change. So we also wanted to encourage some young and upcoming researchers to be able to see the influence as well as the impact of the work that we are doing on a daily basis. So as I did mention, we do share a lot of the success stories, especially on our social media platforms. Please do engage with our content. And I do know that I've been getting this question a lot on how do you become a member of the WiMS. So the requirements are very clear. You need to be the woman and you need to be a member of the WiMSA. And the WiMSA membership, you can find the WiMSA membership application on the WiMSA website. And I also just want to highlight that full-time students, they have a free membership. So by virtue of you having the WiMSA, or rather being a member of the WiMSA, automatically you can be able to join the WiMS network. And you can also contact us on wims@wimsa.org if you need more information on the membership. And again, please do follow us on social media. Please engage with our content on social media. And we look forward to sharing all your lovely stories on our social media platforms. Thank you so much. Okay, I was actually given 2 minutes to do that presentation, and I know I took just about 4 minutes. So I'm not going, if you do have any questions, you can just pop the questions on our chat box, and Jenny and Buhle would be checking the chat box regularly, and then I would be able to respond when our speakers are speaking. So like I said, I'm also going to introduce you guys to one of our co-hosts from SWAM to tell us about their organization as well as their role in the webinar series. So let me hand over to, is it going to be you, Jenny, or is it going to be Ottilia? Okay, so let me hand over to Jenny, and Jenny is going to introduce herself, and then she's going to tell you guys about her role in the webinar and what SWAM is all about. Jenny, you have 3 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Zikhona. And I'm so happy to be here and so nice to see so many people joining. Amazing. So very grateful for this. So my name is Jenny Hertzman and I work for SWAM, and we are actually 3 persons here today. It's me, Ottilia, and Maria that you also see on video, I think. And SWAM stands for the Swedish Agency for Marine and Water Management. So what is Sweden doing here? We are based in Sweden. That's why I have my jacket, as you notice. It is a bit cold here, but actually we do work quite a lot in the Wayo region, in the Western Indian Ocean. We do have a development cooperation program called SWAM Ocean that has been running for several years in the Wayo. A lot of the participants I've met several times, so that's nice. And we work with different aspects of marine management. And my focus is on marine conservation, mainly management of MPAs, LMMAs, and CMAs.
Sorry, Jenny, are you sharing any screen?
No, I'm not sharing. Okay. I'm just talking, so don't worry.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Don't worry. Yes. And we in SWAM, we do believe in strong capacity to manage the marine world. Humans do need nature to survive. Healthy ecosystems is a must for any development, may it be economic or may it be social. But the long-term development is dependent on including social aspects. So gender respect and equal power in decision-making for the oceans, for the livelihoods, and for the survival of coastal communities in harmony with ocean wonders. In dialogue with our partners that we work with in the Wayo, we have found quite a lot of experiences that are worth sharing, being shared with all of you attending this webinar. And we hope that today will contribute to our common regional exchange, to inspiration and admiration of those power women presenting in this. So from SWAM, our agency, we would like to welcome you all today, but also to future sessions on this exciting topic. As Zikhona mentioned, we will do another webinar, and we are planning also to be at the WiMSA Symposium September, October this year. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining. I think we are almost 150 participants right now, and a warm welcome to this webinar. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jenny. And thank you so much for also being part of our webinars. We really look forward to working with you on our upcoming other webinars, just a build up for our upcoming WiMS symposium that is scheduled to take place. I think it's either going to be in end of September or sometime in October, but the dates are going to be released as soon as we have them. So I'm not going to be wasting a lot of your time. So as I did mention, we have about 4 of our speakers. Remember, at the aim of the webinar, we are all just trying to gather and to learn from the women in the marine scientists as well as the marine management. So we've got about 4 women speakers from 4 countries in the WIO region that are going to speak and share the gaps and opportunities that they have encountered to empower the women in the blue economy. So these speakers are going to cover the challenges as well as the opportunities of working with policy reform and management on a local, national, as well as regional level. So we are hoping that the outcome of the webinar is going to contribute to the final seminar that we are going to have at the WiMS Science Symposium that is going to be held in September or October this year. Because remember, we are all just trying to empower the women in policy implementation as well as achieving the gender mainstreaming. So without wasting any further time, I'm going to introduce you to our first speaker. And our first speaker is Stephanie Achieng. So Stephanie Achieng is a gender policy and strategy expert from the African Union Inter-African Bureau for Animal Resources. And she brings a wealth of experience in integrating a lot of gender perspectives, especially into the aquatic biodiversity conversation and environmental management. So she currently holds an MSc in environmental management from the University of Cape Town. So she plays a very key role in promoting the inclusive blue economy development through the effective project formulation, implementation, as well as stakeholder engagement. So Stephanie is going to be providing an African point of view on the policy to implementation gap from the findings of her studies. So I'm going to hand over to Stephanie. And Stephanie, remember, you have 12 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Zikhona, for that brilliant introduction. My extended gratitude from AU-IBA to SWAM to WiMS and to WiMS for having us here. So I'll just proceed to also extend an appreciation to all the women in this space. Happy International Women's Day 2025. We want to accelerate progress. We want to accelerate action towards empowering women and girls in this space. So I'll just proceed to share my screen. Are you able to see my screen, Zikhona? Okay, thank you so much. All right, so I'll speak a bit, based on the thematic area, the thematic section for this webinar, Bridging the Gap from Policy to Implementation in Marine Conservation, with the title of Role of Women in Conservation of Aquatic Biodiversity and Ecosystems. So I don't know why my screen is not moving. I'm facing the same challenge as you did earlier. Perhaps I could stop share and then share again.
Yes, I think you should stop sharing and share again. I don't know what actually happens.
Yes, all right. Sorry. Apologies for that. All right. Okay, so I have the title page showing. All right, there we go. All right, thank you so much. Sorry for that technical glitch. So I'll proceed to introduce my institution. AU-IBA is a specialized technical office of the AUC under the Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment, DARBE. Our mandate focuses on the development of animal resources in Africa And so here we cover livestock, we cover wildlife and fisheries and aquaculture. And so recently the scope of our mandate has been extended to support the implementation of the Africa Blue Economy Strategy. So AU-IBA fills a very unique and strategic niche whereby we work with the RECs, the regional economic communities in Africa, to as key partners to implement our programs. And the RECs would be the IGAD, we have COMESA, we have SENSAD, we have ECOWAS, we have ECAS, and they're 8 in number actually. And so those are like the building blocks of the African Union Commission. And so there are certain frameworks that guide our work in this space. The first one being the AU Agenda 2063. We also have the Malabo Declaration on Accelerated Agricultural Growth and Transformation for Shared Prosperity and Improved Livelihoods. We have the Africa Blue Economy Strategy, which is a very key framework for us in the aquatic biodiversity conservation space. And we also have the AUDA NEPAD Policy Framework and Reform Strategy for Fisheries and Aquaculture in Africa. And so you note within all these frameworks or instruments that I've mentioned, there's a particular focus on the empowerment of women and youth, as well as inclusion of gender and social considerations within these policy frameworks. And so aquatic biodiversity conservation, what do we mean by that? So in essence, aquatic biodiversity or the aquatic space is both the marine waters and the fresh waters. So looking at biodiversity in terms of the living resources within these ecosystems and also the interactions between these ecosystems and human beings. So they're very important because they support a number of livelihoods and they provide employment opportunities for a number of citizens in the African continent. However, these ecosystems are very fragile and very vulnerable to various stresses which stem from anthropogenic activities, human activities. And so some of these stressors include rapid population growth, you have urbanization, you have coastward migration, you have associated economic growth that increase the pressure on these ecosystems. And so our particular project within AU-IBA is known as Conserving Aquatic Biodiversity in the context of the Africa Blue Economy Project. And so the implementation period was from 2021 to 2024. However, we've had an extension period to the end of this year, 2025. Our project is funded by SIDA, Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency. The key objective of our project is to enhance the policy environment, regulatory frameworks, and institutional capacity of AU member states and the regional economic communities to sustainably utilize and conserve aquatic biodiversity and ecosystems. And so our project has 4 strategic objectives. However, the key ones that speak to this particular webinar would be the 4th objective on strengthening gender inclusivity in aquatic biodiversity conservation and integrated environmental management, as well as a little bit of the objective 3 on strengthening measures for mitigating the negative impacts of climate change in aquatic biodiversity conservation. And so what is the role of women in conservation, or in a broader sense, aquatic biodiversity conservation? So we know that in most communities in the developing context, including Africa, WIO region, the SEEDs, women act as primary caretakers and natural resource managers. So they lead in household or community management by controlling consumption, managing household waste, providing healthcare through traditional medicines, which of course come from these aquatic resources. So they control as much as 60 to 80% of the world's food production and play a very huge role in both water management and forestry. Women are therefore in full control of some aquatic ecosystem-based livelihoods in Africa. And so I'd bring you to our continental strategy for mainstreaming gender in aquatic biodiversity conservation and environmental management in Africa. So this is a key strategy that is linked to our 4th objective for our project. And so we had, in terms of the chronology of the formation of the strategy, we had expert studies who identified priority areas and actions that were necessary for strengthening the role of women in aquatic biodiversity conservation. We also had stakeholder consultations. And so this led to us developing this strategy, which has 4 priority areas. Number 1 being capacity building, the second one being policy reforms. We also have stakeholder engagement and communications, and research and innovation. And so based on this, we provide technical support to AU member states to develop inclusive and deliberate biodiversity strategies as important entry points for women's empowerment. And we're also providing technical support to AU member states to develop their national strategies on gender mainstreaming in conservation of aquatic biodiversity and environmental management. And so key issues that were identified during the, within the strategy or during the formulation of the strategy were in terms of women inclusivity in aquatic biodiversity. We had constraints related to gender division of labor. You can get more information on this from the strategy. I will share this data. There's also inequalities in terms of access to resources and benefits. We also have challenges in terms of participation in decision-making processes where women's participation is very much limited. And of course, women's vulnerability to shocks and gender-based violence. So what are the opportunities? Because whenever you have challenges, you also have opportunities. So what are the opportunities for women in this space? Number 1, there's a huge need to transform gender norms and sustain women's livelihoods. There's a need to increase women's access to aquatic and environmental resources. There's a need to ensure women's inclusion in building their resilience in aquatic biodiversity conservation and environmental management. And of course, building women's technical, managerial, and leadership capacity in this sector. So these are the key priority areas that I had outlined earlier in terms of the lessons, in terms of the recommendations and the best practices that we've come across through our work. And so I earlier mentioned that we have supported a number of AU member states to develop their all-inclusive and deliberate strategies for mainstreaming gender in aquatic biodiversity conservation and integrated environmental management. And so at the AU, we divide our work in terms of the 5 geographical regions of Africa. You have the northern part, you have the western, the central, the eastern, and the southern. And so we try to ensure our work covers that geographical scope. So in terms of our support to AU member states, we've covered support to these regions where we have supported Malawi, Ethiopia, Cote d'Ivoire, Egypt to develop their national strategies for mainstreaming gender in aquatic biodiversity conservation and environmental management. And so other initiatives are also linked to gender mainstreaming and women's empowerment, as well as climate change mitigation. Our support to Zanzibar, we've collaborated with Zanzibar Seaweed Cluster Initiative to sensitize and strengthen conservation and climate change efforts in seaweed farming. And as we know, most of the seaweed farmers tend to be women. So we try to sensitize them to the negative impacts of climate change, create that awareness and, build their capacity. We've also collaborated with KEMFRI, Kenya Marine Fisheries Research Institute, to strengthen conservation and restoration of blue carbon ecosystems for climate change mitigation and adaptations. We have worked especially with women and youth to train them on nature-based enterprises, including carbon trading, mangrove restorations, ecotourism, aquaculture, beekeeping, just to reduce the pressure on the mangrove resources so that they have alternative sources of livelihoods. In West Africa, we've collaborated with the IUCN, International Union for the Conservation of Nature, to develop a gender-sensitive community resource management area plan, a CREMA plan, and therefore, train them on how to reduce pressure on, fragile mangrove ecosystems. So this was it was a very gender-sensitive approach that included a number of women in developing this CREMA plan. So we've also had a number of interventions in the WIO region. I'm just trying to speed up in the interest of time. So recent interventions, we held a national stakeholders consultative meeting to develop a roadmap and guidelines for sustainable implementation and governance of established MPAs in the Republic of Madagascar. That was in February 2025. We held a workshop in South Africa to support the development of a gender plan of action in NGOs in small-scale fisheries. That was in September last year. We have collaborated with WWF and the Nairobi Convention to advance the marine spatial planning process in northern Mozambique Channel in the Indian Ocean by shared by Mozambique, Madagascar, Tanzania, and Comoros. So that's the WIO region. Ongoing interventions at the moment is that we try to bridge that policy science interface, whereby we recruit experts or consultants to develop strategies for us, which will then be presented at higher levels of AUC decision-making processes and then become policies in future. And so for the first one is that we've recruited a consultant to assess and develop or propose mechanisms from strengthening regional blue value chains in small-scale octopus fisheries towards strengthening gender dimensions and climate change considerations in East Africa and the Southwest WIO region. And so this is in Kenya, Tanzania, Comoros, and Madagascar. This is ongoing. We have also recruited an expert to develop an implementation plan for rolling out the continental strategy for mainstreaming gender in aquatic biodiversity conservation and environmental management in Africa. We've also recruited an expert to develop a continental strategy for nature-based solutions for aquatic biodiversity conservation and environmental management in Africa. And so there are field studies that are related to the development of these strategies. And so the experts will be moving around the continent, speaking to relevant stakeholders involved in those processes. And so this is very good for our continent. And so with that, I thank you so much. And I'll hand back over to Zikhona. I hope I kept time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you so much for that talk. And I forgot to mention that we are going to park all our questions and we are going to ask our questions at the end of all the presentations from our speakers. So if you do have some questions, please make sure that you jot them down somewhere. And then at the end of all the presentations, then we're going to ask the questions to all the speakers. And thank you so much, Stephanie, for that insightful presentation. And then we're going to hand over to our second speaker. And our second speaker is Tiana. Tiana, are you here?
Hi, everyone. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, so Tiana is a marine capacity development specialist with the University of Rhode Island Coastal Resource Center in Madagascar. And she has extensive experience in managing MPAs as well as LMMAs. And she has reformed management tools that basically are helped, or rather they are used to align with the sustainable development. And she also is able to provide coaching and training for a lot of MPA managers, and she has developed a lot of community management competency standards. So Tiana also assists the women organizations in community health roles, and she has co-created the Fisher Women Leadership Program. Wow. And she has done that in collaboration with Mihari Network. This is to enhance the visibility of women as well as the involvement of women in the marine resource management as well as the local governments. So today, Tiana is going to be talking to us about the policies from her field, and she's also going to be sharing some strategies from her experience, working with the MPAs as well as the LMAs. And she's also going to be providing some solutions on the gender inclusivity as well. So let me hand over to Tiana without wasting any further time. Tiana, we only have 12 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And welcome. Would you be able to share your screen from your side?
I hope so.
Okay.
Do you see my screen?
Thank you.
Okay. So my talk today is all about...
Sorry, Tiana, can you put it on slideshow?
Wow.
Okay, go all the way up. Yeah, on present. Yeah. Presentation mode.
Does it work now?
No.
Oh, strange.
Okay, go all the way up to slideshow, or you can do it there.
I think I did it. I used slideshow, but
Okay,
yeah.
let's go to slideshow.
From the beginning.
Okay.
Now? Is it fine now?
No.
Oh my God, what's wrong?
Okay, let's try it again.
Try once more, otherwise I can help you sharing if it works for me.
Okay. So I will stop sharing and you'll share. Is it?
Okay, I can try. Yes.
Or you
And
can stop sharing and share again, because it happened to all of us.
Yeah,
it's
try
gonna
once
work.
more. Otherwise,
Okay.
I'll do it.
We do apologize for those glitches, guys. Oh, ladies.
Jenny, I will try to share again. If it doesn't
Yes.
work, I need ask you to share.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Now, slideshow from the beginning. Because at my side, it is working fine. Do you see it? Do you see my screen now?
Not in slideshow. Do you want me to try and you just let me know when to switch?
Sure.
I think, Jenny, just try from your side in the interest of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's better. So, okay.
So let's see if that works for me. Yeah, then you don't see yourself. So let me know. Yeah, it's there. Good.
Okay. Thanks, Jenny. So today what I will share with you is all of the issues of enforcing gender policy or policy regarding the involvement of women in natural resource management. I think we share the same issues in most of countries, mainly in Africa, but the policy is existing, but implementing the policy or enforcing the policy is not that evident. So what I would like to present to you today is how did we shape the policy from our field-based activities. Next, please, Jenny. So as other countries, we do have a framework. And I personally think that all of this framework are good enough to secure human rights in resource management, human rights in protected area management, and in all governance. For example, we have our Malagasy constitution that are in favor of equality. It does not specify specific role of women in this constitution, but it really promotes equality between all of the citizens. Apart from that, our ministry in charge of population here in Madagascar developed a social protection law that is protecting women from violences, that is securing human rights in terms of
Hi, Tiana. Sorry, we didn't get that last part.
In terms of education and our land tenure law, which is have a right to have land. So our land tenure law, mine law, in terms of land tenure, is strengthening equity. This is allowing men and women to have right to register land to themselves. Next, please, Jenny. But mainstreaming all of this gender policy or strategy or constitution into sectors, into natural resource management, into MPI management, mangrove management, or fisheries management is challenging. The far we can have at this sector is just an office where you have someone called point focal of women or gender point focal at this office. But when it comes to downscaling all of this policy or law in implementation or mainstreaming them in different implementation, it's very, very difficult actually. Apart from that, enforcement is weak. Next, please. So all of the institutional barriers, all of the educational barriers, the cultural barriers that limit women to have access to resources, to have access to land, to have access to assets, to have access to education, and to be part of the decision makers, all of them are very limited actually. They remain there, all of these barriers. So in one of the paper that I saw, Madagascar gender equity index is quite low. I think it is about 45% out of 100 or something like that. So next, please. In terms of natural resource management, we have a national strategy for blue economy that is still valid and approved recently. And we have all of the acts, the Fisheries Protected Area, Fisheries Act and Protected Area Act. All of these natural resource management laws and framework are gender blind. So there is no distinction between gender and no promotion of women in all of these general laws. It might be good, it might be bad. Good, maybe because they are given the same right to men and women and all of the gender, including youth and migrants in the same law. Despite this inexistence and gender-blind laws and frameworks, we still think that in the ground, we have strong women engagement in natural resource management. For example, we have 24 free protected area, marine protected areas. And 5 of these marine protected areas are led by women. It appears to be less. For you, it's less than, it's about 10 or less than 10%. But for us, it's quite important that we're gonna already have MPA, Marine Protected Area Director, women. Apart from that, we have at these all NGOs, we have 5 NGOs, big NGOs in Madagascar, WCS, WWF, Conservation International, and we found out that the marine program directors of these NGOs, most of them are women. Women in charge of development strategy for marine protected area and for marine conservation, women for leading the job in this marine conservation field. And one of the striking examples is we have about 350 LMMAs set up, locally managed marine areas set up around Madagascar. And almost all of these LMMAs has women associations. For the moment, we recorded 200 women associations, or more, a little bit more than that is have approximately 10,000 women members. So all of these LMMAs have the support of 10,000 women members if they wanna involve these women in management of these community-based marine areas. Next, please. In 2019, I organized a debate about rethinking the involvement of women in natural resource management. What's the barriers and what's the solution? The women that you have on the photos are representative of LMMAs, head of LMMAs, one woman scientist, one woman director of ministry, and one lawmaker. So all of these women are leading us through a debate about what should be done for women to be fully engaged in natural resource management, what should be done for us to enforce the gender policy that we have set up in some institutions, and that it still remain kind of policy on paper. So the solution recommendations from this debate is that women tend to be invisible in what they do in terms of resource management. Whatever they do it quietly. They never get visible with this. So we started to think of a way to increase women visibility, not through awareness, not through media, not through communication or advocacy, but through their local actions. That's one of the recommendations that come up of this debate. The second recommendation is that women are tied to the, I would say, household role. They are keeping the house, they are educating children, they are feeding the children, they have lots of responsibility in their household. And in Madagascar, this is really still really strong. Women is in charge of all concerning the household, including health of the children or even health of the husband. So we were thinking of taking advantage of this social role of women, deep scale them or upscale them or outscale them. This is to get women more confident and improve gradually their roles within the society or within the village. I'll give some examples later. Then the further recommendation is about we need to build technical and governance capacity of girls and women in all levels if we need to bridge this gap, because women have very low level of education. In this country, again, the cultural barrier is that to allow boys to learn and to allow girls to stop education at very low level. So we end up with this recommendation of building both technical and governance capacity at all level. And finally, the last recommendation is that networking, that women shouldn't work alone. They should get into a network in order to raise their voice and strengthen their voice. Next, please.
Okay, you have less than a minute to conclude, Tiana. I'm sorry.
Wow. Sorry about that. So this is an example of increasing visibility. So we know that women is involved in fisheries and 50% of value chain. So we get women to a fair, and after that, in the photo is a minister of fisheries that are consecrating their effort and recognizing their effort. The other one is women management of mangrove. And at the end of the photo, the ladies with long hair is the Ministry of Environment recognizing their women efforts in mangrove management. Next, please. This is about leveraging. We know that women is in charge of the household, but we actually involve men in different aspects. The last photo is about women developing business. Behind the women is the business of sewing these clothes for tourists, and we managed to get this business increased. Next, please. These are the kind of capacity building that we organized for women. For girls, we have promoted what we call Junior Reporter Club that, with the girls. This is a famous Fisherwomen Leadership Program where we support technically and the women and support women in the leadership to get a space in the governance. Apart from that, we promote girls and involvement of women and girls in marine science. So the photo at the end is for our actual Minister of Environment with 3 marine science women and girls working on whales. So all of these activities, next please, are aimed to improve women involvement. I just want to show you this. This is showing the MPA of Madagascar, and as I told you, 5 of them are ruled by women, which is 20%, and all of them, the biggest area MPAs in Madagascar are led by women marine director. In the other slide is the blue spot or LMMAs, and these LMMAs are the 10,000 women members that are supporting the management of LMMAs. So imagine that these areas of marine conservation, MPAs and LMMAs, women are performing at this level. So we can imagine how far the resource management effectiveness in these areas can improve. I think that's my presentation today. But the last message that I want to is all of this information we'll share with the ministry to support the ongoing policy. It is not approved yet, but is concerning the involvement and equitable involvement of men and women in resource management. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Tiana, and I'm sorry for rushing you through, but we are really pressed for time. So as I did mention, if you do have some questions that you want to ask our speakers, you can also type your questions, but we're going to address all the questions by the end of all the presentations. So without wasting any further time, let me move straight to our third speaker of today. And our third speaker of today is Loubna Hamidi. So Loubna is an expert in environmental and climate change adaptation, and she is focusing on the blue sector. She works as a nature-based solutions officer for IUCN and is hugely involved in promoting sustainable use of coastal and marine ecosystems. And I am also glad to share that she is a vice president of the steering committee of WiMS. So we are all in the steering committee of WiMS, and she is based in Comoros. She is also advocating for a lot of women and youth involvement in marine science, especially in her country. And additionally, Loubna is passionate for advocating for environmental conservation, and she holds several advanced degrees in climate change, sustainable development, as well as environmental science. So I'm going to hand over to Loubna. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Zikhona, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Loubna Hamidi, as Zikhona presented now, and I'm from Comoros. I'm working with the IUCN as a nature-based solution officer, but also the vice chair of WiMS. Now, let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Loubna, we can
Yes.
see your screen. You just need to put it on presenter mode.
And now
Stop.
that is okay?
All good, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. On my side, I'm going to show some government involvement and effort done in terms of marine conservation in Comoros, and what the gap and what the solution, the takeaway message we need to treat in case of Comoros here. So the title is to bridging the gap from policy to implementation in marine conservation, and we're taking the case study of Comoros. And this is my presentation content. We'll have an overview and context of Comoros, but also to know about the coastal and marine ecosystem found here in Comoros, the existing policy for the blue area, and what the barrier in terms of implementation of these policies, what the government efforts in terms of gender inclusion, and the takeaway message. The coastal and marine ecosystem in Comoros. Comoros is an association of small islands found between East Africa and Madagascar in the channel of Mozambique. And the population of Comoros, we had about 900 something, but also Comoros has among the unique marine biodiversity spot around the world, but also the coastal and marine ecosystem through Comoros, it has some unique endemic species, like we can see through the picture here. We have also the salakant and also the sea turtles, other marine ecosystem we can find here in Comoros. I want to show also to share about the environmental and marine related to marine policy, which the government is doing some effort in the national level. We have the environmental laws, but also we have the first creation of the Moeli Marine Park, which now since 2015, it's the Moeli National Park. Now it is both from marine and terrestrial. We have also some decree on protected areas. We have some management of the forest. I highlighted here the forest because we are small island, and our forest is also affected our marine ecosystem. We have also the policy of prevention and sustainable waste management. We have a national plan which called the Plan Comoros Emergent. So this is we have the topic and the important point and sector the government highlighted in terms of the development of the blue economy, but also other sector here in Comoros. In terms of the regional and international level, we do have the ratification of the biodiversity conservation, but also we had the ratification of the Nairobi Convention, but also the Convention on United Nations on Climate Change. In terms of barrier, I think the barrier is almost the same in African countries. We have between the barrier in terms of policy and implementation. This is among the big challenge we are facing here in Comoros. The first thing is we have the lack of enforcement. The existing policy are here, but in terms of follow-up, but also we do not have the fund and the resource to follow up the implementation of the policy, but we do not have also the inadequate monitoring and data collection. Every institution has his own management on data. We need to have centralization on data monitoring and data collection, which can give us the next effort we need to take here in terms of marine conservation in Comoros. We do have also the political and institution challenges. It's the involvement in 100%, I can say, through the government in terms of the conservation and the marine coastal and the marine ecosystem. We have also the lack of understanding of the existing law through the community. The law are here, but I can say the majority of the local communities, they do not understand what's existing in this law. And we have some steps to bridge the gap on marine implementation. We need also to improve the legal framework, to review our legal framework in terms of coastal and marine conservation. But also we need to have a sustainable steering committee on marine laws in terms of implementation. We need also to build capacity in collaboration with the local communities, but also to do a desertifying fund and economy in terms of the national data storage and sharing data. That I say we need to have a centralization of that data collection, but also we need to share some success stories through the community which they are doing their effort in terms of coastal and marine conservation. We have some effort which the government is doing in terms of give the women opportunity in terms of the politics, because we do have this in Comoros, but also currently we have the government of Moeli, the island, the place I'm working here. She's a lady. This is among the effort which the government is doing to give women opportunity, but also to share and have the capacity, they can share their knowledge. Some take-home message we need to address about that. We do have to support the women to be interested in marine science area and research, because it's not every woman here. I'm not sure, maybe this is a culture or maybe socio things, but we need to support. This is among the work I'm doing here, to support the young generation, but also women to be interested in terms of marine science area, as we are island. Our economy, our future is through the ocean. When maybe you are seeing Comoros, you are seeing just a dot around our map. So we need to highlight and to be very interested in terms of research in marine and coastal ecosystem. But we do also need to give women opportunity here, some scholarship, but also training in terms of educational and also to understand their role, the importance role in terms of marine conservation, as it is the women, they are in charge of managing the family, so they need to know the importance of to conserve this marine ecosystem. But also we need to have a sustainable management of socioeconomic pressure, because we do have this impact of climate change around the world, specifically for us here, small island developing states. We have this different impact like the sea level rise, the coastal erosion. So we do have also a decline of the marine ecosystem. So the local community around the coastal area, they are doing pressure in terms of access the coastal and marine ecosystem for living. We also need to understand the marine conservation policy, to highlight our gap, because we do have this existing policy, but the problem is to implement, but also enforcement. We need also to have a coordination between the government bodies, NGOs, but local communities, because we do all have these entities which they have the same objective, I can say, in terms of conservation. We need to coordinate together to have a good coordination between the government policy, government institution and local community. And we need also to get effective policy which must address the local need in terms of sustainable resource management practice in the marine area. So thank you so much. And this is the end of my presentation. And thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Loubna. And thank you so much for sticking to the time as well. And I'm going to hand over to our final speaker. And our final speaker for today, her name is Thabisa Sikobi. And Thabisa has a background in environmental planning and development studies. And she has completed a lot of experience in strategy and policy development. And she currently works for Conversation South Africa as a Seascape Senior Associate, where she basically collaborates with national and provincial policymakers in South Africa. So she is from South Africa. And she also does that to ensure the use of nature is recognized in level or in different levels of policies and strategies. So her role also involves developing policy messaging, communication materials that basically assist to bridge the gap between the scientific research as well as the public policy. So what she basically does is she also tries and simplify complex scientific findings into understandable language for stakeholders as well as coastal communities. And we all know that is extremely important. And additionally, she conducts a lot of research where she is working on co-management, small-scale fisheries, and other effective areas that are based on the conservation measures. So I'm going to hand over to Thabisa. Welcome, Thabisa. Thank you so much. You have 12 minutes.
Thank you, Zikhona, and greetings to everyone online and greetings to the panel also. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Not yet. And I can't see your face now.
That's because can you see my screen now?
I think it's coming.
Please tell me when it's showing.
Not yet from my side. Do you want to stop sharing? Okay, I can see it now.
Oh, it's showing.
It looks good.
So, okay, yeah. I will. All right, thank you. I will be speaking on the inclusion of women and girls in marine conservation, the case of small-scale fisheries in the Northern Cape. So I'll first give a background on, okay, my screen is not moving now. Oh, okay, it is. So, okay, I'll first give a background on Conservation South Africa. So Conservation South Africa is an affiliate of Conservation International, which is an international organization, but we are registered and based here in South Africa and have been working here in South Africa in the landscape or rangelands for more than 20 years. So our vision is a South Africa where growth and development are catalyzed through the sustainable stewardship of nature. And our mission is to restore and secure key reservoirs of nature across South Africa for the benefit of all. And we work with communities, government, civil society, and the private sector supporting governance and capacity building. And we also actively engage in the management of Africa's rangelands and oceans through protection-linked livelihoods. We also promote nature positive and climate security and biodiversity conservation and unlock sustainable finance. So our seascape journey, I've mentioned that CSA has been operating in the landscape for more than 20 years. So we recently ventured into oceans and started our first project in November 2023. So we're still new into the ocean space. So So our initial focus, we are focusing on the two coastal communities in Northern Cape, which is the Port Nolloth and the Klip Bay coastal communities, where we are working with the small-scale fisher cooperatives, which is the Akotoa cooperative based in Port Nolloth with 54 members working in concession area 16, but there are 38 active fishermen. And the long-time cooperative, which is based in Klip Bay, has 27 members operating in concession area 15 with 22 active fishers. So these two cooperatives, the Akotoa only have 4 women, and then the long time has only 2 women represented in the cooperative. So where we started by doing a socio-economic baseline just to get an understanding of the skills availability within the two coastal communities. And then we established a skills development and training program to enhance the competencies needed for enterprise development. We also did research where we established and understood the biomass nutritional value, sustainable harvest techniques, blue carbon sequestration potential of kelp in the Namaka, working together with the academics from University of Cape Town. And then we also did a feasibility study on board kelp and lionfish enterprise development, which resulted into developing a business plan on kelp and lionfish value chains. So while we were working on building the trust and understanding the co-ops, scoping out opportunities, skills, and challenges, we had or have a Jobs for Nature program, which is short-term employment, where we employed members of the community under the SEF, Social Employment Fund, and the Yes for Youth program, where they also are partaking into other areas of marine conservation. As you can see here, they are doing food gardens, beach cleanups, eco bins, and beautification gardens. So where are we now? We just finalized a proposal on lionfish enterprise, on developing a lionfish enterprise, where we are planning to include women in the preparation and cleaning, processing, and marketing side of things, and also in engaging with the small-scale fisheries. We and the community members, we are planning to use the co-management approach, which will help us set up conservation agreements between small-scale fishing cooperatives and community members. Also develop a small-scale fishing community areas and other effective area-based conservation measures, also known as OECMs. Well, doing all of these to empower the local coastal community members and also encourage local management. And we are just also in the process of finalizing a gender equality plan, because while we were doing our socio-economic baseline, one thing that we realized that in the area of Namaka is that women are not included. There is that inequality. Women are not included in the fisheries industry. So we wanna create opportunity for women to have access to marine conservation resources. So in South Africa, we have a small-scale fisheries policy, so that we are using as a guide in this process. So for the longest time in South Africa, the small-scale fisheries have been ignored by government. So there's a small-scale fisheries policy recognizes and protects small-scale fisheries rights. It also organizes co-ops into It also organizes small-scale fishers into co-ops, which encourages co-management, inclusion of marginalized groups such as women, and also co-ops can apply to have an area designated as a small-scale fishery area and also recognized as other effective area-based conservation measures. And that is our vision, is to establish a well-co-managed marine that contributes to biodiversity, economic growth, as well as climate stability and resilience, which is a seascape approach, and that will be the first in South Africa. Also making sure that the women and youth are equally represented in the fisheries industry. Just to conclude, women have always been at the center of the blue economy, be it fishing, harvesting, educating, or passing on indigenous knowledge. However, their contribution often goes unnoticed. So we want to empower women and girls in the coastal communities that we are working with, with knowledge and leadership skills, so that they are able to make informed decisions and have their voices heard. Just as a take-home message from me, I've been working in this, I haven't been working in the policy space for quite some time. I'm quite new. So what I have realized is that not many young people are involved in policy making. It is a male-dominated industry that is dominated by older men. So the question that I would like to pose to everyone, just to think about it, is how can we get young people interested in policy making so that they become an integral part of shaping the blue economy? Because a lot of young people, especially women, are interested in science, but not many are interested in policy. So how can we get young people interested in policy making so that they become an integral part of shaping the blue economy? Because we know that whenever there is science, it needs to be translated to policy so that they could be an effective implementation. Hence the emphasis on bridging the gap between science and between science to policy. Thank you. Nyabonga. Back to you,
Thank you
Zikhona.
so much, Thabisa. Thank you so much. And we love the takeaway question, or rather a message. It's going to give us something to really think about, you know, just in preparation for our upcoming webinars, as well as the WiMS symposium as well. These are the things that we really need to get down to business and try and iron out as we are moving forward with our daily lives. So thank you so much to all the speakers. Please give them a round of applause. I'm not sure how you're going to do that online, but just try and give them a round of applause. Thank you. So now I'm going to open the floor for questions. We don't have a lot of time. So we have about 10 minutes for questions. And in no particular order, you guys can ask questions, but I do know that there is one existing questions in our Q&A online. I'm not sure if it was answered. Okay, Stephanie has already answered that question. So I'm going to open the floor for questions. Is there anyone that has got questions to all our speakers?
So while people are thinking of questions, we can also see that one of the questions online was about, I'm Mohammed Ali, Senior Advisor, Women in Fisheries platform launched recently. My question is how women and girls can be suited to other ongoing platforms and networks within fisheries and marine ecosystems. And here I see that Stephanie has answered that there are gender responsive training programs and to introduce them to networking opportunities and invitations to workshops and webinars and so on. I also put in your response there, Zikhona, about WiMS, that you also welcome all new members to become WiMS members as well. So maybe if someone else wants to add something more to that, where you can find networks.
Okay, I do know that WiMS has several information, especially when it comes to the different networks. But then also, you know, in our respective countries and chapters, we should be able to find more information on the existing networks, especially for the women in the marine industry. So in South Africa, you guys can reach out either to me or you can reach out to Thabisa, because you can already see that we are hugely involved in such spaces, but also just use the social media and the networks to try and find who is working on what. And I also loved what, was it Helena who also shared their LinkedIn profile to say that we must connect. It's also through those platforms where you would be able to learn more about what is available and where, and what are the resources, where are the opportunities available. So I would encourage everybody to try and follow each other on social media so that you can be able to be informed on the existing opportunities. Thank you. Okay, there are questions in the chat. Let me see. Okay, so there is a question from Madelina, and she's asking, are there cultural or social barriers that hinder women's participation in aquaculture in South Africa. So Thabisa, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, I will respond, and maybe also Zikhona, you can also add, because we are still new in this space. But what I know is that in South Africa, the fisheries industry is mostly male dominated, and also it's because of the belief that it's men who are supposed to go into the sea and do their job. So women are excluded from the fisheries industry because of that. So we are also trying to break the barriers. And one of the things that we are trying to do is to incorporate indigenous knowledge into our work, and also understand as to what are those barriers, what are those cultural barriers. But I will say yes, they are, and we are still trying to research them. I hope I answered your question.
I can.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure if Buhle is here. Buhle, are you here?
Yeah. Wait, let me see.
Would you like to add on to that question? Or
Yes.
that response from
Can you hear
Thabisa?
me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear
me,
you.
Zikhona?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. I think the other barrier, which is very critical in aquaculture, is resources, financial resources for supporting women. As you know, that to start up in aquaculture is very expensive. So these are some of the things that women are involved in aquaculture. In fact, here in South Africa, there's a one notable aquaculture for coastal women in an area called Hamburg in Eastern Cape called Siyazama Aquaculture. That aquaculture is not doing so well because it's under-resourced. So I would say one of the barriers is resources. And of course, there's still culture that we are also noticing, like fishing, as other speakers have said, is not something which is quite popular with women. It's something which men have always historically been involved in. So that's all I can say in South Africa in terms of participating in aquaculture. So women are really facing challenges when it comes to resources because it's very expensive to set an aquaculture project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we have another question on our chat box, and it says that what are strategies that have worked successfully to reduce the gender barriers at local communities in Madagascar? And I think that question is directed to you, Tiana. Would you like to respond to that?
Okay, sure. One moment, I'm replying to a question in the chat, but would you repeat again the question, please?
So they're asking what strategies have worked successfully in order to reduce the gender barriers at the local communities in Madagascar. I know you've shared about the networking opportunities as well as the trainings that you guys do conduct as one of the strategies to reduce the gender barriers, but maybe you would like to elaborate more on that.
Yeah, actually this gender barrier is still kind of theoretical if you don't run activity. So what we have done so far, the approach we have done so far is that we highlighted the roles of women, the importance of women, the visibility of women in any of marine resource activity. For example, in terms of fisheries management, we organized a workshop with men and women in order to identify the percentage of involvement of women in fisheries value chain. So we started by that, and we end up understanding that the 50% of the value chain in fisheries are done by women. So from this, we have elaborated some of strategy about highlighting all of this 50% done by women. So we are stressing and recommending that if in case you don't have this 50% of value chain by women, what will happen to small-scale fisheries? It will collapse, break down, because men do not have this capacity of post-harvest processing and all of this selling skills. So we did all of the actions related to that, and all of documented results is aimed to feed the policy. So instead of top down, we're done from bottom up in terms of policy development, from actions to policy.
Thank you so much, Tiana.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tiana. I'm sorry to cut you like that. We literally have 3 minutes left and we still have to conclude. So I'm just going to pose one more question to Stephanie that we received. And this question is asking, and it's from Rita. She's saying that she's a sociology master student from University of Nairobi. She's working in the disaster manager and community resilience advocate. So she's asking, with regards to the gap between the policy and implementation, what role in research can one do as a social scientist, where she's going to be taking part in the blue economy, especially related to the nature-based solutions such as the mangrove ecosystem restoration and the marine or the aquatic life conservation, having the socio-economic development in mind?
Thank you so much, Zikhona, for that, and Rita for posing this question. It's a bit heavy. I'll try and see how I can unpack it and probably, give a good answer. And so, yes, there's a gap between policy and implementation, but then there's a very critical part that social scientists play in terms of even data, research data or data collection and analysis. And there are certain approaches that social scientists use that probably other scientists may not. For instance, if you're going to collect data on marine conservation, in how communities are empowered, etc., etc. There are certain approaches that social scientists can take. For instance, interviewing these stakeholders, these fisher folk, the women involved in this, fisheries value chains, some focus group discussions, and these are very critical to the kind of feedback we'll get in terms of how we can enrich our policy spaces, because Africa Blue Economy, you're looking at 5 thematic areas. And of course, those thematic areas cover the sectors you've mentioned here: nature-based solutions, climate change, you have marine ecosystem restoration, job creation, tourism, mining, and all these phases. So I think this is where social scientists come into play to bridge that gap. Once you collect the data, you analyze it, you unpack it in a manner that can be then communicated to the policymakers in a way that can enhance the policy-making process. So I think this is a role that they play in terms of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much to all our wonderful speakers. And, in conclusion, I just want to thank you all guys for joining in. Okay, I refer to guys loosely, but I mean all of us. Thank you so much for joining the webinar. I know time is really against us. There is quite a lot to discuss. So we had about 162, if not 167 participants, and they were all from about 17 countries, from a range of university researchers, students, and regional, as well as government authorities and agencies and NGOs, and a lot of students as well. So I want to say that we are really doing something positive, and I really like it for us, the direction that we are taking. So thank you so much for everybody that has joined us. Thank you so much to our wonderful speakers. Thank you to the SWAM people. There is Jenny, Maria, Otilia. Thank you so much. To all my wonderful speakers, thank you so much. And please continue doing all the great work that you are doing. And we will see you guys at our next webinar. And please watch out for our social media posts, where we're going to be sharing the upcoming webinars, as well as some stuff about the symposium on where to share your, what is it called? What is it? Sorry, I forgot. Where to share your abstracts, because I do know that we are still accepting abstracts up until the 31st of March for the WiMS Symposium. So please do check that out on the WiMS, and also please be members of the WiMS. And by virtue of you being a member of the WiMS, you are also going to be a member of the WiMS. So we're looking forward to interacting with all of you guys. So please do check us out on all the social media platforms. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you to my
thank you, Zikhona.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a great day further.
Bye.
Bye.